Look, everybody, there is no going back to normal. And we are going to have to change how we look at life, how we live life, how we relate to everyone else. We don't have time to bemoan the fact that the coronavirus, COVID-19, the SARS COVID, is not going away. We can't bemoan that. It's here. We're going to have to live with it. And we're going to have to stop looking for people, government, etc., to save us or to solve our problems. You have to change how you live life today. You're going to have to change. Well, actually, not going to change. You have to change how you deal with the people around you. You have to change not feeling like what your life is only affects you. Human beings have never lived in isolation. All of history shows us that people who live in isolation go crazy. So we have got to, and I believe God is telling us that we've got to change and reset everything about our lives, our values, all of this stuff. I don't have time for these politicians, and particularly these Europeans over here, trying to make people go into environments where they can get deadly sick for the sake of an economy, for money. And for many of us, we're willing to kill ourselves because we're afraid not to have money and not to do without. That's what we're going to have to be confronted with right now. You're going to have to learn how to live without money. You're going to have to go back to the stuff that people like my parents taught me or did as a matter of course about being self-sufficient, growing your own food, learning skills like sewing, crocheting, all that stuff y'all call old-fashioned and that you want to go to the stores and buy and you want somebody else to make and you don't care how they're treated, like people in India and Bangladesh and Vietnam who make $1 a day, maybe at most $2 a day, making clothes that you spend money on. You don't care about them living. You don't care that they are living subpar. Just as long as you can, with your lazy self, go out and buy stuff instead of learning how to make your own. That's what has to happen. And I believe that the universe, that God is calling us to reset everything. We got to shift our minds away from money and things and back onto what it means to be a human being. That's what's happening right now. And you don't have time to bemoan, what you ain't got and having to stay home. Start learning some stuff to take care of yourself. How about you learn how to sew, learn how to cook, learn how to grow some food, learn to care about your neighbor, know who lives next to you. Maybe if that were the case, then we might not have as many people out here homeless as we do now. We don't have time for this stuff. And you're going to have to make decisions. We all are. We're going to have to make decisions about what we're willing to give up. Because we're going to have to give up some stuff. The way the world is right now and the way people are acting, especially those with power, you're going to have to decide what you're willing to deal with and what you're willing not to deal with. So, for example, all these people talking about, who are acting crazy about wearing masks, they're talking about not wanting to be controlled. Well, the mask is the least of your worries. If you're worried about a mask, meaning other people control your life, then what about this mandate that you go back to work in places where thousands of people every day are dying and getting sick from this virus. You don't think that that's a kind of control? You don't think that people are mandating you go and send your children to school, and that teachers, we have to go into the classrooms, and we know that all children, all little children, you know that they carry and bring you sickness faster than anything. But they're telling you, oh no, we're going to make kids wear masks. Come on. Really? Stop this nonsense. But you're so desperate and so concerned about material things, acquiring them, keeping them, that you are more afraid of not having things and not having money than getting sick and dying. I mean, really? I'm a witness. The world is not going to end if you don't have a car or the latest shoes or, stay in the nicest places. Maybe there's some people you can get together with and y'all can make it together in a house or something. Or maybe y'all could get together and grow food, and then you won't need money to go to the grocery store. The woods are still free. I don't know. Think about it. One of the things I've been doing this whole time is thanking God for being what I consider a cusp baby. I was born long enough ago to have attended segregated schools for my elementary education, but not so long ago as to not go to school with white people. And having the experience of seeing the difference between a segregated school and quote unquote integrated schools, and having parents who tried to pass on their indigenous ways and thoughts about being self-sufficient, canning food, planting gardens. My mother taught me to sew. She taught me to crochet. She taught me to embroidery. She taught me how to kill a chicken. My father showed me how to plant stuff, how to kill a pig and a hog. I mean, when you're young, you're like, oh, don't nobody want to do that. Why are we doing that? Because when we can go to the grocery store. But guess what? They did that because they didn't have no money. So what'd you do? You get together. You buy something collectively. My father and his brothers, they would, one stayed in a rural area, the other one stayed in town. But when it came time to killing a hog or killing meat, that's what we did. We kept chickens in our backyard, and I watched my mother, wring a chicken's neck, and I plucked it along with my sisters and brothers so we could eat. And it didn't cost us a dime. My father labored, even when he didn't have to, in a field where he would grow sugarcane, watermelon, corn, tomato. We always had plenty to eat. So for a long time, I never knew that we were quote unquote poor. We always had plenty to eat. We always had clothes to wear. And a lot of times we had new clothes. We just made them ourselves. So I look at a lot of students that I teach, and they are stuck. They wouldn't know where to begin to survive without money, without electricity, without air conditioning. They wouldn't know what to do. And I feel sorry for them. And that is what these people in power, that's how they perpetuate slavery. That's why they tell you to put your life in danger so you can go back to work. And what are we going back to work for? Is it just for us? Who really makes the bulk of the money? The people you work for. So they're asking you to die so that someone you may never meet and who won't share a fraction of what they make from your labor. They're asking you to put your life on the line for that. They're telling you you have to. Guess what? You ain't got to do shit. You can sit on your ass, sit outside, get you a patch of dirt, make you a tent, and be all right. So what's going to happen is, as things get worse and worse and worse with this pandemic, you're going to have to decide. You're going to have to decide whether you're going to be slave to the machine or whether you're going to try to find a different way of living. The only thing I ask of people is be realistic about yourself. For me, for example, I've always had health issues. I think that if my physical health had been different, who knows whether I would either even be living here in the United States, because there's something wrong in this place. There's something wrong with a world that cares more about money than it does about your health. There's something seriously wrong with that. So for me, a lot of my decisions, I'm telling you these things, and a lot of things I want to do, I can't do because I'm physically not able. But what I can do, I'm willing to do. One of the things I've been blessed to do is to teach. I can teach you how to sew. I can teach you how to make clothes for yourself. I can teach you how to crochet and make blankets and quilt and those kinds of things for your own survival. I can teach you how to cook. I can tell you how perhaps you might try to live off the land, which is what we're supposed to do anyway. And imagine what would happen if a group of people, of like-minded people, came together with those different skills and decided that they were going to make their own lives together and capitalize on the strengths of the various members of that community. That's what we used to do. And that's why many of us who grew up in the 60s and the 70s, we didn't know that we were poor. Because poor meant you were hungry. Poor meant you were naked and dirty, right? But we were never that. Never. Ever. Even though some of us lived in houses where we had to fight roaches and rats, and we still managed to be clean, thank God, Clorox. We still ate every day. So the world has decided that it's not going to take us anymore. That we've been polluting the environment. We've been greedy in terms of killing the animals that are here to help us and to keep a balance. We're killing each other. Greed and evil have overtaken us. And so this whole pandemic and the riots or protests with George Floyd, to me, I see it as God and nature, when God is nature, saying, y'all need to stop. And since you won't do it on your own, let me stop it for you. I'm going to stop all this crap that you're doing to each other. And I am going to do it in a way